Every year when I come back from Lesotho, we have a brunch with Peg in Toronto and in Ottawa. And this Zoom has allowed us to have this a much wider range to invite all of you. So that's very exciting. And I'll be sharing some impacts from the trip, some challenges and the current situation. I also want to just take a minute to thank so many of you for your messages of support and encouragement to myself and to the staff. We really, really appreciate it. It's been a very challenging time. Most people I know who are in decision-making positions are in the same conundrum. They're having to reevaluate everything financially, programmatically, and in terms of human resources. So it's been a challenging time, and your encouragement is truly appreciated. So, and stay with us through this, but as I was looking over the guest list, it was really fun to see so many names of people I'm truly fond of, and people who've stayed with us all this time. Some of you know Lesotho well, you've been there, others you've followed our journey, and to just see the geographical catchment that we're able to reach today. So that's really, really fun. And if we don't have your location up there, please forgive us. I wish I could individually thank each one of you and welcome you, because we do wonder how you are. We know that you have your own personal challenges, and we're concerned about you as well. Some of our new guests, I look forward to meeting you in other contexts and getting to know you better as well. So as we go along, I just wanted to have a special welcome for our trip guests. This trip in 2020 was really fun. It was a lovely group, and we did lots of interesting things. And I'm sure you'll have hearing some questions from them. Because this is from my house to yours, I thought I'd show you a couple of things from my home. This is a wall. I've lived here for 6 years, and this is a wall I created of some of my favorite pictures that I have taken from Lesotho over the years. And it's in my dining room. And these people share my life. And this is a very messy table. When I came back from Lesotho, as many of you know, I left virtually in the middle of the night, and I had to leave a suitcase behind. And I brought back what I could. So one of those bags is filled with 100 of our brooches that we sell, made by Mematolo in Lesotho. There's some pre and postnatal books I brought back to share with another organization called Osu Children's Library. They're doing some work with young mothers, some letters from Lesotho for sponsors, and some cards people made me. And there's the reunion brochure that I brought back. And some of the things, I haven't been to the office yet. Matter of fact, I've hardly been out of my house. So today, I'm going to try and make my remarks reasonably short so that we can talk. I can answer some of your questions. But I do want to cover these 5 points. These are things that people have asked about, and we want to cover them properly. So one is our financial situation. Lots of you have been asking, how are we doing? And frankly, it's impossible to tell. Our fabulous CFO, Leslie Griffiths, and I have been running tons of scenarios. We are trying to look at our situation, project, but it's really hard to know more than 2 months ahead. Many of you have sent us special gifts already so that we would be able to plan better, and we appreciate that very much. We do know that there's great need for us. We know that our donors are loyal and supportive, and we also know that you have other competing demands. But we have spent a lot of time reviewing our priorities. One is that we must not deplete our resources and our reserves. We don't know how long this will last, so we're looking at that. We also don't want to compromise our staff capacity. We have spent years developing a very talented, highly skilled local staff, and we want to keep paying them as much as possible through this times because they're very vulnerable themselves. We know that when you donate to us, especially right now, that you are sacrificing and that you have other concerns. And so I want to make a commitment to you that I'm going to donate back a minimum of 20% of my salary over the next 6 months, and hope that will help. So we've got some pictures for you. This is a picture that we took about 18 hours before leaving Lesotho. Sylvia Pinnell took this. Lesotho's in its 3rd week of lockdown, just finished, and the Prime Minister announced yesterday that they're going to have another, extend the lockdown to May the 5th. As yet, sorry, I just got a note that I didn't do something right. Oh. One moment, please. I'm not. Let me just check. Oh, we were struggling with this a little bit before. Okay. This is always the concern with technology. Oh, please bear with me. I think I've got it. Nope, not that one. Okay, hopefully that's good. So as I was saying, the situation is such that there are 5 to May 5th is the lockdown at this point. There are no identifiable cases in Lesotho, but they're not actually testing yet. They've been given 2 shipments of PPE. They've got from China. They've got a donor from Lesotho who is setting up a lab. So it's really a conundrum to figure out how this could happen. The weekend before the lockdown, which was April 21st, there were 93,000 Lesotho who crossed over the border from South Africa to Lesotho. And it's very hard to imagine that there are no cases there. Frankly, I'm incredulous, as is everyone else. So this is analogous to when HIV spread, when all those people came back from South Africa and went up to the mountains. So we'll just have to wait and see. Most of our program and beneficiary graduates, they live in remote areas, and many have no phones, they have no cell phone, they don't have money to put data on their phones. Some have no electricity, and the winter is coming. And they're a very vulnerable population. As you know, they have the 2nd highest rate of HIV in the world and the highest rate of TB per capita. Our herd boys have almost no contact. Our young mothers and grandmothers are perhaps our most vulnerable because they're poor. The lockdown prevents them from connecting with their program networks, and even the most meager income that they can make from selling something on the street, vegetables, or for doing washing for other people. Their concerns are mostly right now around food and about getting paraffin for heat. They heat from paraffin, cow dung, and kerosene. And kerosene and paraffin, of course, are fairly dangerous. One of our major concerns is gender-based violence, with people closeted into very confined areas. So the situation in Lesotho is, just seeing if I can, so I want to outline how it is since 2004 that we've been able to get so prepared for such a crisis. With your support, we've developed the staff who are highly trained in psychosocial support and coping strategies for grief and loss, stress management, health issues, for pre and postnatal care, gender-based violence. And unlike a lot of large organizations, we have almost no bureaucracy. We're in a position to make decisions very quickly and implement them with incredible speed. And as soon as we understood the potential of COVID-19 on Lesotho, we immediately reassessed our priorities and our possibilities, what we could do, and we just made some decisions, and we dove into the particulars of implementing them. So we decided to equip our local staff to work at home and to be able to deliver psychosocial support to our beneficiaries through our database, by phone, by text. There are lots of challenges in operationalizing this because none of our staff in Lesotho have internet at home. They don't have designated places for an office. They don't have desks or really places where they can be alone to work. They have taken their computers home, and in order to access their computers, they are hotspotting their computers from their phones. They're using the data from their phones to operationalize their computers. And then we are remotely adding to the data on their cell phones. Nothing is easy. So we gave each staff, every single person who works for us, a lot of resources. The program staff have very comprehensive resources with them at home. We developed and printed hundreds and hundreds of copies of a very simple, translated one-page COVID information sheet. So it's 2 sides, and we are distributing that everywhere. So I've got a little picture of that shortly, and this picture here was taken yesterday from our young mother lead in Berea, and this is their attempt to physically distance themselves. They're trying. Doesn't come naturally. These are our staff in various locations distributing these one-pagers. So they did this very quickly. There's a lot of myths going around, and they're very unhelpful. So they are distributing those all over the mountains as much as they can. We've set up dozens of WhatsApp groups to be able to connect and to send out health information as it comes up, and for us to communicate with our staff as well. So within 5 days, we were operationalized on all of these new strategies. And within 2 days before the lockdown, we were able to provide food parcels for many of our grandmothers in all the locations that we could reach at the time. So one of our grandmothers wanted to tell you what that was like, and this takes, this takes Okay. I'm just trying to see. Okay, got it. Just to let you know, there wasn't any sound on that video, which is really unfortunate because she was terrific and they were all ululating, which I think of as the sound of Africa. And she was holding a bar of soap. The long green soap is the sunlight soap. It's cheaper, and they just cut off a bar of it as they go along. And she was also holding some candles. So I want to share with you how it is that we got prepared. So from the very beginning, since 2004, we wanted to create a critical mass of leaders who would be able to lead social change in Lesotho. And you can see the numbers here. We have created that critical mass. They're ready to go. Our job now is to mobilize them. Some of the factors that have increased our ability to respond right now and to be really helpful in this crisis are the fact that people trust us. We are a family to them. And so they will listen to the facts about the medical situation and how to protect themselves. And they will allow us to help them challenge some of these unhealthy myths. Another factor is that we have massive networks. We're able to connect with so many people all over the mountains. And this is allowing us to disseminate psychosocial support and health information. Another factor is that in every program, every day, and many of these programs are very long, we emphasize the individual responsibility to help others, to reach out and do something, take leadership, make a difference. So they're ready to do that. They understand that's their responsibility and they're ready to reach out and help the people around them. And we physically can't do that now, but they're able to do it. And our graduates love Help Lesotho. This kind of connection is helping them to feel that they're not forgotten. The young mothers are saying they can't believe that we're remembering them right now, that we're reaching out to them, they're sharing their problems, and they're giving us a chance to be part of their lives as they go through this. But in all of this, with so many people, it is hard to reach them. They lose their phone. They run out of data, so they lose their phone number. They don't have cell reception. They change their names, as is the custom for women when they get married or when they have a baby. So it's really challenging. But auspiciously, 18 months ago, as many of you know, a young graduate from the Child Sponsorship Program reached out and contacted me to organize an alumni reunion, which we held on the weekend of February 14 to 18, just recently. And the act of organizing all this gave an extra special push to collecting the contact information from our graduates so that we are now using those contacts to reach out. So that was unbelievably helpful because we couldn't find them, but the alumni reunion allowed them to find us. So I wanted to, there's so much we could say about that. So I wanted to focus a little story on this reunion on 3 young women. The one in the center is Mamokote, and she's the organizer. Mamokete, sorry, she's the organizer, and she's the one who reached out to me initially. She comes from Tabitseka. She's had an abusive childhood. She was beaten so badly. She's actually deaf in one ear. She has serious visual problems, and she's at University in Pretoria. And she just wanted so deeply to give back. And these are 2 of her friends. They went to camp together for years, 6 years they went to camp. On your left is Dikalady. She's a lovely young woman who has amazing natural leadership ability. And she was taking accounting. She was all excited. Everything was fabulous. And almost 2 years ago, she was in a drive-by shooting. She was just sitting in a car in a taxi, and an errant bullet just went and just lodged in her spine. And one of the things she was telling us was that someone had offered to pay for her to go and have some spinal surgery in Japan. And I'm thinking now that won't happen. But she's amazing and very positive. And on your right is Dintley. And just a sidebar, L-I and L-E in Sesotho is pronounced D, and there's a test at the end. So Dintley is, again, lovely, vivacious. She wants to be a social worker. And these 3 girls formed an organization team, and they reached out to so many of our beneficiaries. This is right out in front of our big center. It's stunningly beautiful. On even a more clear day, the mountains are more visible. But when we hold a big event, we always use this field so we don't ruin our own property. So we set up tents. The girls wanted me to invite the king and the queen and government officials, and I said no, because we really wanted this to be about them. This was about them talking to each other about the impact on their lives that our programs have made, and also about what their plans are to become leaders in their communities. So our staff cooked all night. They chopped and chopped. We fed over 250 people, and everyone pitched in. It was very exciting. We had dramas. We had, and the young people did all this. We had 2 young men did raps. We had music. We had speeches. We had Sister Alison Putswe, my friend in Destiny, who was so instrumental in starting Help Lesotho. And many of the young people wore their graduation gowns. They want to show us that they had graduated. They had become the kind of leaders that we had always hoped. So they gave great speeches. I mentioned some of them in my letters, but I wanted you to see them. We're so proud of all these young people. It was so touching. After the speeches, they got together and they networked, but the speeches were very long. My speech was the last one, 30-degree temperature. It was so hot under the tent. And nobody can do long speeches like Basutu. So it was really fun. And afterwards, they got together. So this is a bunch of our, a group of girls from our leadership programs. They gave a talk, and they presented Sister Alice and myself with some very sweet gifts. This is under the tent. Many of them dressed up as if they were going to a prom. They were so proud to come. They traveled from all over the country. They stayed for 2 nights, many of them. I confess there was some partying going on. They were so happy to see each other. And the event on Saturday morning took up the whole morning, then lunch, and then the afternoon was all just chatting with each other. Lots of our former staff came, and the young people were so happy to have them. Makes me happy just looking at the pictures. They had those t-shirts made, Leaders Never Give Up. Leaders Never Give Up is our mantra. And many of you have heard of it before, but it helps me too. It might help you in the next few weeks. And this is our country director, Dati Shadrach Mutembe, and some of our staff. Aren't they adorable? So we have all this critical mass. We have all these young leaders, and the challenge is, how do we capture the impact of our programs over time? As I was saying, it's challenging to reach them, and they spread out all over the place. They go to South Africa. They travel constantly to try and get jobs. So we did a survey, and they took the time to fill it in. So we've got some really fine data, and I just wanted to show you a little bit of it. So I hope you can see this on your screen. I'm not going to go over them. But you can see that the results are amazing. This only shows the highest level. If you take the 2 highest levels, they're almost unanimous. It's very impressive, and this is very encouraging for us as well. So we'll be sharing more of this data as it comes along. And this is an aggregated visual of the impact that we're making. And it's very important to highlight that this is exactly the impact that we hoped to make 16 years ago. That we encourage self-management, we foster resilience, and we help people to develop the leadership to take action for the benefit of others and increase their knowledge and attitudes towards HIV and AIDS and gender equity. So self-management is really the measure that we make about the critical thinking, problem-solving, decision-making, because this is a core of all of our programs. And these are just 2 very brief quotes. One's from Dick-A-Lady, the young woman in the wheelchair. She says, "I've survived depression and suicidal thoughts because of what I've learned at Help Lesotho. I graduated as the management accountant and aspiring chartered accountant." And Rechabile says, "I would love to be one of the sponsors under this big tree of Help Lesotho, so as to share the feeling of what Help Lesotho has done to me." I want you to know that at least 90% of the young people who came asked me to thank their sponsors, the donors, the people in Canada, the people around the world who have made those programs possible. Without any kind of instigation, this came out spontaneously over and over and over again. So we're really struggling with what to do next. We want to be able to provide very concrete help. And so we're initiating a campaign called Caring for Caregivers. And we're hoping that you will spread the word. We want to provide the grandmothers, young mothers, child-headed households, those who are caring for others with what they need. So whether that's food, whether that's paraffin, candles, whether that's psychosocial support. We're going to see if we can get permission from the police to go and actually physically take groceries to some of these people who need it so desperately. So we're going to be telling you about this campaign as it comes up soon, and we hope that you'll be able to share that with others. We are mobilizing quickly. We are reaching hundreds and hundreds of people every week. And it's because you've helped us, and we just want you to know how much we appreciate it. We know that you're facing your own challenges, and we want to make sure that you realize that we're here to support you in any way we can as well. So we've got some time for questions, and I'm hoping that I can do this properly.
Hi, Peg. It's Kate here. So everyone, I am going to jump in to ask some of your questions, and we'll let Peg answer them. So this stems directly from what you were just speaking to, Peg, but we have a question that says, I was impressed with Helpless U2's rapid response to COVID-19. How will this shift affect Helpless U2's regular programs over the next 6 months?
It's a great question, one we're asking ourselves every day. We don't know. I think the key is to create as many possibilities as possible and be ready. So right now we're doing remote work, and we're investigating all the technical aspects of delivering concrete relief up in the mountains. We have the vehicles to do it. We have the drivers. We could do this easily. We're listening to our beneficiaries, and we're finding out what they need. So we're delivering programs to them individually. I think it's probably important right now to highlight the fact that our staff know these people. They are the program officers who have given them the programs before. So they have a connection with them, and they're able to follow up. As they call, they're making lists of who's the most vulnerable. So when we're able to resume our programming, we can do this instantly. UNICEF and UNFPA are reaching out to us about this as well right now. So I feel that we can adapt very quickly. Good question, though.
Thank you. So this is also related to COVID-19, but we have someone who would like to know how the political situation in Lesotho is affecting both Helpless Hutu's ability to work and also the response of the government to COVID-19.
I pause because it's a challenging question. First of all, for Helpless Hutu, there really, other than the lockdown, there really isn't an impact on us. We have always maintained our funds are segregated, no one can reach them. We can make our own decisions. The partnerships that we're involved in, we can proceed or not proceed and carry on with our own work. The political situation in Lesotho is very difficult. Some of you may have heard that the Prime Minister and his wife are charged with murder. It's not the king. Several people have written me worried that it was the king who was charged with murder, but it's not. It's the Prime Minister. His first wife was murdered 3 years ago. So he is also being deposed by a coalition within the government. So the government is really stressed. They're having a hard time getting things organized because there's no identified cases. They don't know what to do. It's hard to get information. I have close to 6,000 followers on Twitter, and that's how I get a lot of my good information, listening to the dialogue between Basotho. So they're preparing. They have medical facilities set up if there's a need. They're trying to figure out what's going on. I was speaking to someone in position of knowing yesterday from Lesotho, and he was saying that the larger organizations are still struggling because they have a much it's harder for them to respond as quickly. But everyone is trying, everyone is focused, and it's very hard to get information.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to combine a couple questions. This relates to our beneficiaries and some of the challenges they are facing. So one question is how people are getting water in order to wash their hands when they are in remote villages. And the second part is how are people, namely our beneficiaries, able to practice physical distancing? And is that even possible?
Again, very good questions. Physical distancing is difficult because when you live in a very small hut with multiple people, there's also a lack of urgency in this regard because there aren't any identified cases. People are confused. There's lots of myths going around, even myths that there's no such thing as this virus. So that our staff and our graduates understand the facts, and they're all doing the best that they can. A lot of other people are distancing. Someone was telling me yesterday all the bars are closed, so that's very helpful. So they're not congregating in that sense. But it's tough, physical distancing, and there's a lot of physical care that's going on. A lot of people are ill with AIDS and tuberculosis and other things. So that's challenging. In terms of water, this is really tricky. I've heard of some instances where people are actually selling water, but the police right now are trying to keep people confined to their homes. And so a lot of people are anxious to go on the long walk to wash their clothes or to get water. If they have to go to a stream, and there was a tremendous drought when I was there, a lot of the streams were almost dry already, so there probably are now. And then for girls to walk all that way when no one is around, there's not the normal milling of people, they're more vulnerable. Water is a tremendous problem. We were able to, a company in Saskatchewan gave us some water purifiers. They donated that I took over last year. And so some of our young mothers have these solar water purifiers, and they can put this, as long as it's sunny out, they can purify some water. But it's tough. No easy answers.
This is a bit more of a general question, but they would like to know, are boys and men's attitudes and actions towards girls and women changing over time?
I would say yes and no, to be specific. Yes, in the sense that, we've educated tens of thousands of boys in gender-related issues, and they have changed enormously. We can see that across all of our programs. There's no question about that. There's a greater general awareness, but conversely, there's an increase in gender-based violence. Wherever you get a large group of unemployed, unsupported young men and mix that with some alcohol, especially homemade, it's called Joala, you're going to have trouble. The unemployment is so low that a lot of men are being retrenched from South Africa, and stress promotes gender-based violence. So there are improvements. One thing we've noticed in that regard, if I can say, is that our women who we're training, they are making very different choices. They're either not getting married, they're waiting longer to get married, and they're expecting more respect from the men around them, and they're getting it. So that's really helpful.
Excellent. We have somebody who would like to know how soon you think COVID testing will be available in Lesotho.
I think it should be this week, but I'm not sure. They had a few tests, but they always had to send them to South Africa to get the results. So hopefully this new lab will allow them to test and get the results right away.
So thinking of our local staff, Peg, someone would like to know how it's going for them working at home. And I know many people who are listening to this webinar are dealing with figuring out how to work at home. And for our staff in Lesotho, that presents a whole new set of challenges. So how do you think that's going?
We're checking on them. We're very concerned about that, and we're wanting to support them in every way possible. Number one, they're all highly motivated. They are very anxious to reach out. They have to often work in the evenings. For example, the herd boys are out during the day with the animals, and they have phones. They're charging during the day, so they talk to them at night. There's a problem with boundaries. Beneficiaries are calling them back weekends, evenings. That's always a problem when you work at home. Some of our staff live alone, so that has pros and cons. They're able to work more effectively and more confidentially, but they're lonelier. It's a very social culture. Some of them are struggling because of their own family situations, but they're very positive. One of our male staff was asked he was calling people in our leadership program, and one of the husbands came on and said, "Why do you want to talk to my wife?" So that was funny because they're not used to this kind of concern. But the feedback they're getting is so positive that these calls are making such a difference to people's lives that it gives them lots of energy. And then we're sending them information, encouragement, lots of health updates regularly. Good question.
Okay, so we have somebody who first has a lovely compliment saying very impressive data from the alumni. And then he goes on to ask whether we've thought of asking the same sorts of questions to Lesotho authorities regarding their impressions of Help Lesotho's impact.
That's a good question. We get lots and lots of feedback from people who come from international donors, for example, the Global Fund, the UN, the EU, a group from Zimbabwe, from Germany, UNICEF. So we get lots of feedback from them. They love our programs. They bring international visitors. They keep wanting to fund us. So we get lots and lots of feedback from them. We get a lot of feedback from community, like the chiefs, and this is unsolicited as well. We do some focus groups sometimes, but we have excellent relationships with everybody. So we just get constant feedback, and it's all the same. They love our work. Why can't we do more? Why can't the programs be longer? Why can't we reach more people? Why can't we go and work in other areas? It's unbelievably consistent.
Excellent. So the next question, I know you mentioned earlier what we're focused on with our programs over the next 6 months, but in a broader sense, what are the organization's challenges looking like for the next 6 months?
This is part of our risk assessment and trying to see what are the opportunities and what do we need to do. I would say our challenges is in planning. We are unbelievably structured, and we like to do things very methodically. So it's very hard. I don't know. There's an inverse correlation between financial contributions, people's donating to international development, and the economy. So when the economy is down, people donate to local causes. That's just a fact, and that is a consistent element. So it's very hard for us to predict what our revenue might be like, and this has implications for staff, for programming, whatever. So we will try to do things in a measured way. And I think the challenge and the opportunity is to be as flexible and vigilant as possible. So we can grab opportunities, we can be responsive, and there may be new opportunities out there from the international development community or for other people. We are in this amazing position that people come to us often. They hear about our work and they say, how can we help you? So we're not in any way negative or down or anything, but we're being very, very careful. But the level of ambiguity is unprecedented. So it's very hard to plan, which is hard for me because I'm such a planner, as everyone knows.
Well, we actually have somebody who has tagged on to this question asking, is it better to give a larger block of money now or to give smaller amounts monthly?
Oh, that's a really good question. The best thing for us is monthly donations, because this is our meat and potatoes. This allows us to plan. For example, everything that we do, like the procuring the grandmother parcels, which we want to do, the food parcels, they contain papa, mace meal, candles, beans, lentils, matches, paraffin, just basic supplies. But in soap, hand soap, we gave lots of hand soap because of the pandemic. But one food parcel drop is $10,000. We have that many grandmothers. So the monthly donations allow us to plan. It takes us time to put these things together, and that's the best way, frankly.
Okay, so those are all the questions that have been asked. So Peg, I'm going to turn it over to you to just wrap things up. And then we have a little video that we will end with for those of you who are able to stay on the call for a couple extra minutes.
Well, firstly, thank you for your patience with our technology. And thank you, Kate, for managing this. We did practice. Any glitches we had were entirely my fault. Just keep communicating with us. Keep reaching out, letting us know how you are. We worry about you too. We wonder how you are, and you have all of your own issues. We feel so privileged to be part of this community. We're privileged to be able to make a difference. In this pandemic, so many people feel helpless, and we are not helpless. We know exactly what to do. We know how to do it, and we need to adapt that knowledge. We need to keep listening, but we want to keep listening to you. We have personal relationships with so many of you. And I also want to just say that I have not stopped for a second since I came back to Canada, so I haven't answered many of your emails. I want to, I think of you, and I will. We've just been going round the clock. And I want to publicly thank our staff, Leslie, Marlene, Kate. We are so small, and we've been doing an incredible amount of work, very effectively, very methodically, and our staff in Lesotho are outstanding. So if you want to send them notes, that would be great. They really appreciate them. I copy and paste them into our WhatsApp group, and keeps them going. So for those of you who are prayerful, please pray for us, and we will pray for you. Thank you for coming, and hopefully we can do this again.
Help us to believe in the empowerment of young people to become leaders for today. And as we look at you, as we see you today, we see people that are becoming leaders. And I want you to know that we're going to stand with you until you reach your full potential.
We'd also like to thank the donors and our sponsors who make the point that Help Lesotho is one of the best organizations in the world.
When I speak of help, I speak from the heart. These powerful women and men you see here are the living testimony that you guys work so hard in our lives.
The leadership instilled in these people is the leadership practiced in Help Lesotho. It is the kind we so much need. When you look into the politics of our country, we see Help Lesotho preaching a different gospel. We see Help Lesotho developing different kind of leaders for others and not for themselves.
I want to thank every single person who has spoken. It's made me cry. It's made me laugh. It's made me remember. And it's made me thankful. Believe in your country, in yourself, and in each other. There will be change. And it is my hope that you will lead it.
During the dark night, you sit down. Yes, when the sun is setting, you just in the sleeping. In the meantime, you will try to give up. No, never. Leaders never give up.